a president. Can you believe it?
No. No, not really, no. Hey, Donny, how's your week been? Oh, poor Donny's grumpy. Someone get him a Farley's rusk and a rattle. It just got worse. A Yale University psychiatry professor has met with lawmakers to discuss President Donald Trump's mental health. She thinks you're out of your tiny orange mind, Donny.
Excuse me.
Repeating himself now. Dr. Bandy, really? Bandy. Everything about this is great. Dr. Bandy Lee. I'm not making that up. Her middle name begins with X. I've got no idea. Dr. Bandy X. Lee, an expert on violence, believes that the president is unraveling and that he poses a public health risk by being in office. I think that's unfair. There's no evidence that the president is violent.
I'd like to punch him in the face.
Lee gave a presentation in Congress on why Trump's presidency was an emergency. She gave it to a group of Democrats and one Republican senator who were probably trying to find the door to leave. This was during a private meeting at the beginning of last month. She said, from a medical perspective, when we see somebody unraveling like this, it's an emergency. She was speaking to the New York Daily News. She said, we've never come so close to this level of catastrophic violence that could be the end of humankind. Oh, come on, that's ridiculous. Donald Trump couldn't take us to war.
I'll bring us into war.
Once again, I stand corrected. Dr. Bandy X. Lee said, he's very attracted to means of violence as a way of burnishing power. Well, you've seen the way he shakes hands. The Yank shake. The professor previously edited the book The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump. 27 psychiatrists and mental health experts assess a president. And the conclusion they came to was... Warning! She said lawmakers were enthusiastic to speak with her and her colleagues last month, adding that the main concern was getting Republicans to agree on Trump's behaviour. Well, they'll never agree on Trump's behaviour, as long as they can get tax cuts for billionaires. Seems to be the only thing that's on their mind. And they get tax cuts for billionaires by throwing poor people off health care. The Republicans aren't going to say anything while the stock market is going through the roof because the corporations just got a tax cut. And guess who benefits from the stock market going through the roof? It's the same billionaires who just got a tax cut.
I make $400 million a year, so what difference does it make?
What's truly amazing to me is that the poor white people who voted for Trump still stick by him. I suppose when they can't get medical treatment and their tax bills go up after a year or so and the rich seem to be sucking the wealth out of society ever more, they will eventually get that Trump says he's for them, but he's doing the exact opposite. Either that or they will eventually get it, or they'll just find some way of blaming Hillary Clinton. The Constitution's 25th Amendment allows the Cabinet to remove a president if physical or mental health impairs him from performing the daily duties of office. But there's no evidence that Donald Trump has lost his mind.
Bing, bong, bing, 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 bong, bing, 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 bong, bing, 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 bong, bong, bing, 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 bang, bang, boom, bing. That's the end of that. You know, it's the only thing he can say.
The Constitution's 25th Amendment allows the Cabinet to remove a president if physical or mental health impairs him from performing the daily duties of office. But as Trump's daily duties are playing golf and looking at pictures of himself, I suppose he's performing them just fine. Oh, holy smoke. There's just, it's another newsgasm. Like I said, it's Christmas and birthdays all come at once. Ain't we blessed? Blessed to still be alive, only just. I don't even know where to start. I'll take this call and I'll take a breath. Wanstead, hello, Sophie.
Hi, Nick. Where
Sophie,
do I start?
I've got no. Start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start.
Now you know that Trump said about his name's gone out of my head. Bannon. First he lost his job and then he lost his mind.
Yeah.
Who am I talking about now? this will happen in the future. First, he lost his mind, and then he lost his job.
I don't know. It sounds like the lyrics of a song.
That's Trump. Just flip
right.
it the other way around. What Trump said about Bannon, I'm hopefully going to be able to apply it to Trump.
Wow.
Because
I see what you did there,
his mind.
Sophie. That's very good.
Thank you. Well, he's already losing his mind.
Yeah, lost. I think lost. I think the wrong tense there. Lost his mind. You know, these psychiatrists in America, they shouldn't actually be saying this. It's part of the code of being a psychiatrist that you're not supposed to evaluate somebody from a distance. But they thought we're at such a serious juncture in the life of us all that they said, "Oh, to hell with it. We're going to speak up and say something."
He's going to be the greatest case study for psychiatrists in the future, I'm telling you. But the other thing is that... sorry, hello?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. His administration is just appalling how full of bile and vitriol they are towards each other.
Well, it comes from the top down, like most institutions. The people at the bottom, they act in the way that they are shown from the top. It just comes from the top down. I mean, how could you be in his orbit and not be full of bile and, but that's what he likes, apparently. That's the way he organises people around him. He gets people that are unsuited for their job, who dislike each other and who are constantly fighting. Thereby, he can sit there like a sun king and just dole out favours, and nobody can, group together against him. If everybody's fighting in among themselves, then he just sits there above it all. That's how he likes it. Chaos.
Exactly that. And, if press reports are to be believed, even his daughter is denigrating him to dummy.
I love that bit. Now we know what's going on with his hair, because curious minds have been trying to find out what on earth is going on with whatever it is that floats just slightly above his scalp. And now we know. Now we've got a clear idea of the complicated procedures that it takes to get that thing looking like that.
I thought it was a carpet-covered drone that landed on his head.
Yeah, I thought it was something that was by remote control, hovering just slightly above his head.
The other thing is, why has he got a lock on his door and not Melania?
Yeah, well, I have a theory about that, and I'll share that with you a little later on.
The mind boggles.
Yeah,
my mind
it does
boggled.
a little bit, yeah. I feel like I need a shower just thinking about it. All
exactly.
Right. Thanks a lot, Sophie. Ta-ra. 0345 6060 973. You can text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Holy moly. I think I might break the habits of a lifetime and actually go out and buy a book. So I'll go away and I'll come back with some of the explosive allegations contained within its pages in just a minute. What was that poll that Andrew had in the previous show? It was something about... What was it? My glamorous assistant knows?
So it's about... Sorry. It was about whether...
All over the microphone.
Stop it.
That is
I'm
horrible.
far
That's a spongy thing that has just collected every germ that you just spat at it.
I'm the only one who sits in here.
You can squeeze it out later.
I'll wring it out,
that is awful.
especially for you. So it was about whether this book is going to have any negative impact on Trump's presidency.
Okay, that's a very complicated question. People weren't answering that question. People were answering the question, do you really love Donald Trump? And 70% said yes, and 30% said no. Is that right?
Essentially, yes.
Holy macaroni. People, stop reading the internet. It's turning your brain to fudge. What are you talking about? Somebody actually had the temerity to call him up and say that Donald Trump has a very thick skin. According to an explosive new book containing shocking allegations about his first year in office... Oh, my God, has it really been a year? It seems like only, 10, 12 years already? Painful. His first year in office, top White House officials and heavyweight confidants, including Rupert Murdoch, as in Rupert Murdoch, scoffed at President Donald Trump's intellect. They think you're a dope, Donny.
I'm smart.
Yeah. That's the thing about smart people. They tell people that they're smart all the time. Einstein was always bellowing across car parks about how smart he was. In one of the many passages of Michael Wolff's book, Fire and Fury, inside the Trump White House, a good picture on the front, by the way, he couldn't be more orange. I've got fruit in the fridge that looks less orange than that. He writes, the author writes, there was now a fair amount of back-of-the-classroom giggling about who called Trump what. Nobody has a good word to say about this man. For Steve Mnuchin and Reince Priebus, that has to be the weirdest name for anybody I've ever seen. Reince Priebus. It sounds like an electric car. Anyway, for Steve Mnuchin, Mnuchin and Reince Priebus, Donald Trump's an idiot. His chief economic advisor, Gary Cohn, said he was... And now there's much of this I can't actually say on the radio. You can say it on television, right enough. In fact, if you have a program after 9 o'clock on television, it's pretty much obligatory that you say all of these words at least once. But if you're on the radio, then if you even think it while you're on the radio, then you'll never work again. So I'll excise some of these words for your convenience. His chief economic advisor, Gary Cohn, said he was dumb as bleep. His national security advisor, H.R. Puffenstuff, said that he was a dope. Katie Walsh, his former deputy chief of staff, was quoted as saying that dealing with Mr. Trump was like trying to figure out what a child wants. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson called the president a bleeping moron. Rupert Murdoch shrugged as he got off the phone and said, "What a bleeping idiot." There's a whole lot of bleeping going on, Donny.
Bing bong.
Exactly. This book is so juicy it might even get me to buy it. It might actually save a bookshop. Are there any bookshops left?
No.
No. Well, we'll have to build one just to sell it. This message says, buy a book, Nick. Warning, reading will seriously damage your ignorance. Well, it depends. Depends how deep your ignorance is. Mine is like, it goes down fathoms. I've got no danger of seriously damaging my ignorance. Don't you worry about that. Here's some of the revelations in the book. Spoiler alert.
Warning, warning.
First Lady Melania Trump openly wept on the night her husband won the election, and the tears were not of joy. See, he didn't even think he was going to win. He thought that this was just a way to increase the profile of his brand. He was going to set up a TV news station after this and make $1 billion. He was going to sell more steaks and more diplomas to his phony university. That's what this was all about. It was just a fame-gathering exercise. He wanted to be as famous as Madonna. The whole campaign from top down thought Trump would lose, including Trump himself, and everybody had planned for defeat, with Trump himself planning a TV network because he would be the most famous man in the world, which is all what this is all about. Trump and Melania sleep in separate bedrooms. See, if I was Melania, I'd want a separate building. And he demanded a lock on his door against the wishes of the Secret Service. A lock. What are you doing in there, Donny? I hear the tinkling of water. Is that a tap running?
Disgusting.
Trump orders McDonald's so he's not poisoned. See, he eats McDonald's a lot because it's pre-made, and the person that made it doesn't know who's going to eat it. He's totally out of his mind. Maybe it's mad cow disease. He orders McDonald's so he's not poisoned, and that presumably is why he has such an athletic physique. He told staff not to touch his toothbrush, and he strips his own bed sheets. Well, even Melania doesn't want to touch those. Trump regularly sits in bed eating a cheeseburger at 6:30 in the evening. He goes to bed at 6:30. While calling his friends and bellyaching about this and about that. I'm not saying that he's a whiner.
I am the most fabulous whiner. And I'm a whiner, and I keep whining and whining.
And among his staff's verdicts on him are, they include but are not limited to, dope, dumb as bleep, hopeless idiot, just a bleeping fool, lost his mind, incapable, and incapable of functioning in his job. Yeah, that sounds about right. It's amazing stuff. I am actually going to buy a book. Can you believe it?
No.
I can't. I went through 4 years of university and only bought 6 books. 6! I don't think I've bought a single book since I left university. How embarrassing is that? Very, very embarrassing indeed. I've written more books than I've read. I mean, I read no end of stuff, but it's all on the internet and it's all news and, all that.
Boring!
All of that interesting stuff. People give me books and I say thank you very much, and then I just put them away and I don't even open them. I prefer television. Television is less painful on the eyes, because books you have to scan your eyes back and forth and eventually you'll just wear them out. And that's an actual fact. You want to know about his hair? Ivanka Trump, that's going to be his 4th wife. Ivanka Trump has made fun of his hair, which might mean that Donald doesn't think that his daughter is hot anymore. That's how he described her. How creepy is that? A father describes his daughter as hot. Never mind a lock on Donald's bedroom door. His daughter should have a lock on hers. Here's what she says about her daddy's hair routine. If you've ever wondered what's going on up there, it actually is real hair and not a squirrel taped to a hovering drone. Here's the recipe. First, get surgery to reduce the size of your scalp. Because apparently he had a gigantic island of nothing up there. And because he has, very thick skin and he's not remotely interested in his appearance, he went and had a large portion of his scalp, a couple of acres, just taken off, so that his hair met, almost. So he had surgery to reduce the size of his scalp, so that the island of hairlessness got smaller. Then he adds men's blonde hair dye. Just for men, blonde hair dye. But he's too impatient, so he doesn't keep it in long enough to turn blonde, so that's why it's sort of orange. Not as orange as his face, of course, but if you took it and put it next to something white, then it would look orange. So he's going for blonde, but he didn't quite get there. Too impatient. Because that's what you need with a man who has a nuclear button on his desk, impatience. Then you take the furry circle of hair that sits around the sides of the blonde, of the bald bit, and then you... How long must this take? Maybe that's why he goes to bed at 6:30, because he has to get up at 4 in the morning to do his hair. You take the furry circle of hair around the sides and the front, from which all ends are drawn up to meet in the centre at the top. And then, it's almost like they're folded back and swept back and then secured by a stiffening spray. Which you could use as construction concrete, I would imagine. And it doesn't look ridiculous at all. Wolf portrays the president as an aging man. I mean, how old is he approximately? 100? 120? Something like that. He portrays the president as an aging man who repeats stories and quotes some of Mr. Trump's closest allies, describing... Hang on, I'm going to cough. I've caught your cold, my glamorous assistant. The author portrays the president as an aging man who repeats stories and quotes some of Trump's closest allies, describing the president as incapable of functioning in his job.
Correct.
Yeah, whatever that is. Well, just keep in mind, he didn't intend to have this job at all. He didn't actually mean to be president. He didn't want to be president. He just wanted to be famous, like everybody else on Earth. He describes the scene at Mr. Trump's Florida Mar-a-Lago resort just before the new year, saying a heavily made-up Trump failed to recognize a succession of old friends.
Oh, no!
You know what that means? It used to be that inside of 30 minutes he'd repeat word for word and expression for expression the same 3 stories. He used to do that within 30 minutes. Now he does it every 10 minutes. Nothing to be alarmed about. Yeah, but everything is okay, because it's not like he has a working, big, beautiful nuclear button on his desk. He actually doesn't. That's a button that's connected directly to Burger King. The Secret Service have just told him that it's a nuclear button. He keeps bashing it over and over again, and nothing happens. He's going to get somebody to look into it. Woo! Boy, it's just... it is like I've been given a gift. We've all been given a gift, ladies and gentlemen. It's the gift of Donny. Thank you, Donny. Thank you for being you.
Oh, shut up!
And I get the feeling that a lot of Trump fanatics have just scurried away to hide in the shadows until it all all blows away. Until their orange hero could come out and strut about the world stage again and tell them that everything's going to be huge and tremendous and great. The book has come out. Who on earth are we going to get to play him in the film? I don't know. Is Coco the Clown available? Epsom. Hello, Martin.
Hi, Nick. I think Chevy Chase would be a good idea for Donald Trump, no?
Yeah, I don't know. I've never found Chevy Chase to be funny in anything.
Have you ever watched Community?
Yeah.
I really, really love that show, but then, I don't know, I think, given your previous reviews on Star Wars, you and I have different...
Oh,
tastes.
no. You didn't like the latest Star Wars film, did you?
Yeah, I actually, you said that you loved the salt plane bit, and that was obviously one of the best bits.
But just before you say another word, Martin, no spoilers, because there's a lot of people who haven't seen the Star Wars film, so we're not going to ruin it for them.
No, absolutely. And the only actual skywalking bit in it was awful. Yeah, so I actually bought this book today at work and read it for the last 3 hours of my working day, because I'm on chapter 5 already.
Wait a minute, you spent 3 hours of your working day reading a book? You're not in air traffic control, are you?
No, e-commerce. So
okay, that's fine then.
I work a lot with Amazon, you'll be glad that.
Right.
I've been wasting my time there. No, I actually only bought 2 books at uni. I beat you.
2? What did you study?
I bought 2
Medicine.
books for my German degree, and one of them was for Dutch.
Oh, right. Well, that's excellently well done there, Martin. What degree did you get?
I got a 2-1.
A 2-1? Wow, you're doing excellently well.
Yes, thank you. I also levelled up a lot on GPA, which is pretty much all I did while at uni. Great use of $9,000. Anyway, so I've been reading this book all day, and it is amazing and more blunt than I thought any other book so far has been on it. And you could pretty much do a show on the first 5 chapters of what comes up. And when your glamorous assistant asked me what would I like to talk about, it was sort of just a big jumbled mess of stuff, because there is just so much. Like, the fact that Bannon and Ailes, the guy that started Fox News.
Roger Ailes, the boss of Fox News, who was fired for sexual indiscretion.
Disgusting.
Yeah, I think it was a giant fat perv, to put it bluntly. And there seems to be a lot of perversion going on at Fox News. A lot.
Yeah, I mean, your opinion on the prostitute dressed...
yeah. They all look like high-class hookers, and curiously enough, I think that was what Roger Ailes actually liked to look at.
Well, I imagine Rupert Murdoch probably has similar tastes, but...
you see, the thing is that Rupert... it's really odd, because if Rupert Murdoch thinks that Donald Trump is a bleeping idiot, as it has been described, then that rather implies that he doesn't personally support Donald Trump. So who knows what's it's all too complicated for me.
That was one of the things I wanted to bring up, because you quite rightly bring up every week that this is the only news show or any television show. I don't think he's watched Friends in quite a few years, but it seems to be the only show that he watches. And
well, it's the only show that is uncritical of him, and because they know that he watches, and they're appealing to the 80-year-old white men that watch Fox News, and they seem to be all for Donald Trump. bizarrely. Why? I've got absolutely no idea, because he's not going to do him any good. And I missed out Poor, the 80-year-old poor white men. That's Fox News's audience, and so they just they basically just slather him in butter and lick it off him every morning. It's excruciating.
Yeah, and that's what's puzzling, because there's a chapter in the book where it covers his win, which he wasn't expecting, and Melania was obviously devastated when all the nude photos of her came out in the Daily Mail, and she absolutely hates being First Lady. She
just wanted a quiet life of shopping and getting her nails done.
Lunching. Yeah, and Donald Trump, actually, it says in the book that it was the only promise he ever kept to her, which was, I will not win. Or it's the only promise he thought he was going to keep to her, ever. It says so in the book. And in the book, it talks about his win, the night, right? Or the day he had in Trump Tower with the golden elevator, not shower, elevator, with Farage and all that.
That's right.
And it talks about how he was saying, Rupert Murdoch's coming, you want to stick around for that? And people were getting up and ready to leave because they were done. And Rupert Murdoch was incredibly late to this sort of function up in Trump Tower for his win. Rupert Murdoch was hours late, but he just kept on saying, he's amazing, you want to stick around for this? And basically everyone else was saying, yeah, you want to stick around for this, not for Rupert Murdoch, but to see how Trump reacts with Rupert Murdoch, just to see the two together.
Yeah, what's the dynamic there? Yeah,
he does not care for him whatsoever. So this whole power dynamic of who's in charge of who, is Trump in charge of Murdoch or Murdoch in charge of Trump?
Well, what's bizarre is that Donald Trump does seem to base his policies on what he sees on Fox News. So it is like leading him around on a leash. So if you want to push America in one direction or another, just get the breakfast show on Fox News to tell Donald Trump that it's A, B, or C, and Donald Trump will say, "Oh yeah, okay, well we'll do this then," and he live tweets while he's watching it.
Well, that's another thing that Bannon actually says in the book, that Bannon and Ailes got together one night and they were basically just policy crafting. And they basically, the Jerusalem thing in Israel, the meeting at the Capitol, they just threw that about one night at the dinner table.
Are they just throwing around crazy stuff? I liken it to somebody who's driving along in a car, and they've got dogs chasing them, and the dogs are the reporters. And every now and again, you just throw a bone out, and they go and sick on this bone, and it's just a giant distract. He doesn't care about any of that. He's not remotely interested in what bathroom transsexual people use. It's just something to throw out that the press will sick on, and so they're not concentrating so much on his Russia connections and his money laundering and his failed businesses and his catastrophic performance in his job.
Yeah, there was one tweet I saw today that James O'Brien retweeted, and it was talking about how the news sort of focus on whenever he says something racist, but then right at the end there's a tiny little article about how he's actually passed a piece of legislation that means nursing homes don't have to set their patients on fire or something.
What? Well, nursing homes can now legally set their patients on fire. Is that what you're telling me?
No, but, basically the point of it is that, there's some big massive story about some stupid thing he's tweeted or said, and then the actually really important policy stuff put through. It's
distraction stuff, exactly right. When he put through that coal mines can now release their waste directly into rivers. They don't have to clean it up anymore because, that's what people want, apparently. No, that's not what people want. That's what the owners of coal mines want, so that they don't have to spend money on cleaning up their effluent and can award themselves bigger bonuses.
Yeah, and in that respect, you've got to consider, is he mad or a genius? And obviously sometimes the two go together quite well.
Yeah.
But no, honestly, it's an excellent book. I haven't actually read a book properly in ages, just like you. I way prefer TV. I'm currently on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I can recommend that.
I've never heard of that.
It's a really good one with Danny DeVito, if you like Danny DeVito.
Oh, well, he's excellent, yeah. It's Always Sunny. Do you have to subscribe to one service or another? Because there's too many services to subscribe to. I just can't keep up with Sky. I don't mind about anything else.
See, I find everything on Sky, obviously at Sky advertise with you, so they're brilliant, but I personally don't find them that brilliant.
Are you kidding? Game of Thrones? How can you not like Game of Thrones? That's the most fantastic thing I've ever seen. Each episode is like a big budget film. It's amazing.
I watched that online, and I know that you really liked the last season, but I found it way too blowy uppy, and I like the politics of it, and it was way too kind of, I know you like $100 million.
Too many battle scenes.
Because the good thing about Game of Thrones was that the whole season would lead up to a big battle scene. It would be a brilliant climax, whereas now it's
all climax.
It's all.
Well, what about Big Little Lies? That was on HBO, which is on Sky. All the women with the intrigue and the sexual politics and all of that. That was great.
That's all on Sky Atlantic. That's one Sky channel. What you're describing there.
Well, it's HBO basically. It's HBO.
Yeah. You could probably just get a subscription to the HBO Go service or whatever it is and whack it on. But
I've never heard of that.
For Netflix, honestly, it's worth. I've told you this before on the air, and you've shut me down before.
Yeah, I don't listen to this show, Martin.
But no, it's on Netflix, and they've added the new Star Wars stuff on Netflix as well now.
Oh, is that right? Well, the only good Star Wars film that was made since the first 6, of which not all 6 were worth watching, was Rogue One, which wasn't apparently part of the Star Wars. It was part. I'm very confused by this whole thing. It's part of the Star Wars saga, but it's not part of the story. I don't really understand it. But anyway, it's the only one that's really worth watching.
Do you know what bothered me? The one thing I really loved that movie, but the one thing that bothered me was the absence of the title. The words that come up at the beginning. And the fanfare. The fact that the Star Wars music, it wasn't there.
Just imagine that it was there, but you didn't take your seat quite in time. You were queuing for the popcorn and the cola, and you didn't get there. Just imagine that it was there, and then you'll feel better about it. No, it's the only one that was actually worth watching so far, but nobody pays attention to me.
Why doesn't anyone listen to me?
Exactly.
I listen to you every weekend.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Thanks a lot, Martin. 0345 6060 973. Donald Trump has a nuclear button on his desk. At least that's what he thinks. But he doesn't have a nuclear button on his desk. But he can bring around World War III all on his own and without recourse to anybody else. And no one can stop him doing it. And I'll tell you how he can do that in just a minute. Lewisham. Hello, Jane.
Hello, Nick.
Jane.
I couldn't be bothered to read that book. No. But now listen, a book to read is An Irk's Eye View of World War II by Ted Maudsley. Have you got that?
Of course not.
Eye View
by Ted Maudsley. Yeah, he is. I think he's fantastic in every regard. I've never heard of him, Jane, or that book. Why don't you want to read a book about the crazy machinations that go on inside the office of the most powerful man in the world?
Yeah,
World War II's ancient.
You've just said about it, but I hope you.
Well, I haven't read it to you. What do you want to read about ancient history?
No. It brings you to it's a different view of looking at things and brings people to reality. And another book is Oak by William Bryant Logan, and he should be an advisor to Donald Trump. Have you read that book?
No, I don't read. I don't read books, Jane. Why are you enunciating so clearly? Like this is an advert now.
Oh, well, it is an advert. They're two excellent books, absolutely different. But William Bryant Logan, he's an American. He's very, very deep, and he's really, really in tune.
Yeah, count me out. He's in tune.
It's an excellent book, Nick. I tell you what, those two books I would really, really, really recommend.
Right, I'm definitely not going to read them. If that's any help.
Do you want me to get angry with you?
Read the book about Trump, Jane. This is important.
No, I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered to listen to all that gossip. No. No, the two books I've just told you.
Yeah.
Absolutely the best.
Well, if only I had remembered what they were. Brendan says, I couldn't resist getting that book. I went for the audio book. I will enjoy it at my leisure whilst doing other things like I do with the radio. There's an audio version. That's because people, when I write columns, people write to me. This is back when I used to read Twitter, I don't read Twitter anymore. Nobody should read Twitter. There's nothing of interest on it. It's just people going on and on and on and on.
Stop whining.
Exactly. But people said, oh, why can't you read it? I release books about once a year. I'm going to release another one in a bit. I'm thinking of calling it either my year in Trumpton or a year of living Trumpily. I haven't decided yet. And people always say, oh, book, can't you release an audio book? Just read it with your eyes. Francis said, for that film of the book, you really should look up Orange Sesame Street characters. Plenty of choice for Donald Trump. Clarence the Cross-Eyed Lion might be a good idea. Or what was the name of the gorilla? Because around about the same time in the 1970s, there was a cross-eyed lion who was the star of a television show, but there was also an orange gorilla, whose name I forget. But anyway, we'll see if he's available. Chiswick, hello, Milan.
Hey, Nick. Whole belated Happy New Year, by the way.
Ah, yes, Happy New Year to you.
So Trump is the master of distraction, because I expect a lot of stories about Iran and Korea next week to tell everyone, hey, don't look over here, look over there. Because how many stories have come out when that Billy Bush tape came out? I thought, that's it, he's dead in the water. But then he started talking about Hillary, and then everyone started focusing on Hillary instead of the Billy Bush incident. And there's always when the FBI raided Paul Manafort's place, he started talking about other stuff to distract everyone. So he's good in that part. So
he only has to distract the yahoos from the Dingaling states who voted for him in the first place. And this is why he has attacked the media from the off, is because he doesn't want anybody believing anything that anybody says except him. It's like the first lesson in dictator school. You just cut off the media. Now, of course, if you're Vlad the Insaner or somebody who runs a third world country, then you actually physically go and remove them with great vengeance. But he's stymied somewhat. He can't actually kill them, and so he's just trying to kill them off by other means, by getting people to not believe what they say, by talking about the mainstream media and everything's fake news. And so the people that support him, they have stopped believing in facts and truth anymore. They just believe whatever he says. So I don't think that any of this is going to make the slightest bit of difference to those people, because they'll think that, this is just something that Hillary Clinton made up, or it's the left-wing liberal elite. kind of weird criticising people who are elite, as in more intelligent than the average. That's what elite actually means. How bizarre that we've got to this position in the advancement of humankind when intelligence is actually a bad thing.
Yeah, and explaining facts and having a basic understanding of a technical process, and then you're labelled a traitor and you're abused.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah? But
if you're a scientist, if you are interested in facts and the dissemination of facts, then you are somebody to be fought against, because nobody's remotely interested in scientists and their so-called facts.
But then that's why perhaps we're more interested in slogans and big hot air, especially in the print media today. So that's why it's like certain publications sell a lot, because it's full of hot air on the front, but when you look at the substance, it's lacking in a lot of substance.
Oh yeah, well they do it every day. If there's a slow news day, they'll say cure found for cancer, and then right at the bottom, they know that people only read the headline and maybe the first line or the first paragraph at most of any story. Almost nobody reads the whole story in a newspaper. They'll read the headline and the first paragraph, and the headline and the first paragraph can be the opposite of what the actual story is. They will say, a cure found for cancer, and it won't be that. It will be one mouse reacted positively to some bizarre treatment, and further investigations will be undertaken, and if they're all successful, then in about 50 years it'll be available over the counter at Boots. But in the meantime, there is no story, and they do that all the time. Somebody told me who worked in newspapers, they said, here's how you sell a newspaper on a slow news day. You call up the palace and say, is it true that Prince Charles is having a deep emotional relationship with his horse? And the palace will say, don't be stupid. And your headline is, Palace denies Prince Charles a relationship with a horse.
Yeah.
And that'll sell papers. Of course it will.
Yeah. Can I say something controversial?
Oh, no. Controversial?
Oh, no. I actually do sympathise a little bit with Trump when it comes to fake news, because fake news isn't a new phenomenon. I mean, it has been around a lot.
No, well, let me correct you there, because Donald Trump specifically said in a television interview that he invented the word fake.
Oh,
he said it was he said it was one of the best inventions that he had come up with, and that he calls it fake. That's he actually said that. He invented the word fake. Donald Trump said that on the air.
He invented. Okay, the actual concept of fake news has been around with the print media, and I thought that print media is probably getting annoyed that social media is taking over print media. Yes. Hold on a minute. Fake news is our bit. Why are you in social media?
Yeah, well, you know, the mainstream media has only got so many inches to fill in a newspaper, but of course social media has got it's disseminating fake news on an industrial scale. There is no end to the fake news on the internet. It's bottomless.
And with the papers, I mean, with my mum running the paper shop, I mean, 30 years ago, we had, 150 copies of the leading broadsheet newspapers. Yeah. Now, 15.
Wow.
How much has that
gone
down?
And this is in poshest Chiswick.
Well, yeah, and so people are accessing by the internet. That's where they're getting their news. They're not buying the papers anymore. So they think, journalists think, you know what, I need people to buy the paper. I know, I'll put salacious headlines on to make people think, oh God, that looks interesting.
Well, I think about the only news disseminator that is actually increasing its circulation is the online Daily Mail website, which is doing boffo business. Not because it's news, it's because of all the boobs and the bums and the sidebar of shame. That's what people are clicking on. What's Justin Bieber done lately? And people, if you cast your eyes to the bottom of these stories on Justin Bieber and these soap stars and all the rest of them, usually the comments are like, why are you writing stories about this? Well, the reason is because people like you click on it. They're not interested in the actual story. They just want your eyes on the adverts that go next to the story. If you stop clicking on stories about Justin Bieber, I promise you they'll stop writing them tomorrow.
But Nick, do you know, I think hard Brexit may save Trump.
What do you mean?
Yeah, because Liam Fox will be desperate for a deal. If
we are desperate for a deal. What, I mean,
he'll go to America and say, look, please, we need a deal. And then America will be like, that's fine. Here are our terms. We want to export
chlorinated chicken. Yeah. And we want Monsanto to come in and sell your farmers seeds that they'll have to rebuy on a yearly basis. And you'll have, we want to sell you fish with 3 eyes. So Manchester United beat Derby. Well, that's a good job, because can you imagine the sour puss on Jose Mourinho if they'd failed in that task? Oh, blimey, it would have curdled milk from here to space. It's not a Manchester United thing. I just can't stand Jose Mourinho. I can't stand his face. I can't stand his hair. I can't stand his zip-up jacket. Just everything about him. I hate him. I hate him. Here's a call in Kensal Green. Hello, Sonny.
Hey, how you doing, Nick?
Good, thanks. Yeah, very good.
Good, man. Well, you were talking about the Trump. We were just talking about Trump in general earlier. I think, I think America right now, and will be, during his term, will be in this worst stage, I think, ever, with Trump running it. With all the, like the Christopher Steele report and such, and even the book. I think it's ridiculous all the stuff that's coming out from him, and I think he's not going to do anybody any good, especially his country.
It does fit right in, though, doesn't it? I mean, we just heard the author on the news. He was saying that he does act like a baby, like a needy, whiny baby.
I am the most fabulous whiner.
And it just everything about it just sounds, that's about right. Yeah,
you can see it. You can see it. I mean, you can even during his campaigns, the stuff he was saying. And the thing is, I mean, that's to be disrespectful, but a lot of American people can be quite stupid, man. I mean,
well, that's not American people, Sonny. That's people. People can be quite stupid.
Yeah, fair.
We're surrounded by morons.
But I couldn't see that kind of thing happening here. I mean, could you?
Are you kidding?
Ooh, I don't know. Guy like Donald Trump. I don't know, man. I don't know. That's a bit much. I mean, we had Boris close there. I mean, he's kind of the closest one I can say in terms of looking like Trump. He was there, but I don't know.
Well, Boris has said some pretty ripe things, and I might get into some of that later on. But people with okay, so now I'm going to say something controversial. Get ready, prepare yourself.
Oh no!
The people have been persuaded to vote for something that is not in their best interest. So the stupid is everywhere, and it all seemed to come from the same source. Oily men using dodgy Russian money have persuaded us to do something that's not in our best interests. And and the people that voted for both Trump and the B word. They, with absolutely no information of any kind whatsoever, they've had their mind made for them, and they're digging their heels in and insisting that they were right all along. It's like it's like they're in the last chance saloon.
No, I wouldn't say that. That's very controversial, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I know. I agree with you.
I bet there's some people screaming at the radio right now. Clenched fists, bug-eyed.
I don't think I can say it here, but yeah, I mean, yeah.
I think Bannon and those around Trump have created a precedent so to sell their vile political agendas to those that don't know any better. So now this king baby is in the White House and nobody in the world seems to know what on earth to do about it. And he only has to keep the yahoos from the Dingaling states on side to vote for him again, and he'll be a two-term president. Because whatever the Russia investigation comes up with, and people seem to think that it's that the White House staff were too stupid to actually collude. The Russians had a hand in it, but they were, they were working on their own. The it of it is money laundering. That's why Trump doesn't release his tax returns, and why he hasn't. Keeps denying that he has any Russian connections, despite the fact that his son is on record as saying that they have a disproportionate amount of Russian money in their business. I mean, they want to pick an opinion and stick to it. It's comical. So many legal companies have refused to work with them because they think, well, we'll tell them to say one thing and they'll just go and say something else. Kay says, I recommend the Audible app so as not to strain your eyes, only your ears, probably with this book that you're wanting. What's an Audible app? It's an app, baby. I've got no idea what that is. This says you should read a book called Zero Gravity. It's so amazing. It's so amazing you can't put it down. These are the jokes, folks. Listeners with material. And Brian says, telling us not to read Twitter. Okay, fair enough. I'll unfollow Nick Abbott then. Yes, unfollow everybody. Take back your lives. Get your face out of social media. There's nothing social about it. These people that are following thousands and thousands of people on Twitter, who are you kidding? You're not following any of those people. It's just a desperate attempt to get your own numbers up. I follow about 30 people, and and most of them are institutions who tweet hardly at all. And I can't keep up with them. I can't read everything that... one of the people that I follow is Donald Trump. It's a full-time job just keeping up with him. So these people that are following like 5,000 or 6,000 people on Twitter, I mean, who are you kidding? You're not following them at all. You just want them to follow you back, to put your numbers up. This is why I'm glad that I grew up when I did, when there was no such thing as the internet. It were grand when I were a lad. There was no such thing as the internet, and we didn't have computers or any of that stuff. If you wanted to make a phone call, then you had to sit on a piece of furniture called the phone stool. That's probably not what it was called, but that's what it looked like. It was a long table with a seat at the end with the phone on it, in the hall, where no heating was, by the way. There was no radiators in the hall. That was the cold part of the house. If you wanted to make a telephone call, it would cost you about a week's wages to call the people across the road, and you had to sit in the hall and do it. And there was none. I mean, your popularity was just evidenced by the number of people, the number of friends that you had, not the number of fake friends that you had collected by some bizarre means on the internet. We didn't have an actual ticker going up. Oh, I've got 5 friends. Oh, well, I've got more friends than you. That must be awful for kids these days. They go on Twitter or MySpace or whatever it is that they use these days, and there's an actual number that tells them how popular they are. That's terrible. No wonder the kids are all huffing glue or whatever it is that they're doing these days. I bet my glamorous assistant knows what they're doing these days. What are they doing these days, the kids?
I don't know, I'm not a kid.
No, not kids anyway. No. Anyway, get your face out of social media. It's not doing you any good. Brian says, telling us not to read... Oh, no, I read that one. Lynn says, I once believed these men who told us that women were the gossips. Now I know that it's men who are the inveterate gossips. Since men stopped going to the pub with other men, they found different outlets in which to gossip, notably social media. Well, I suppose that's partly true. But the reason why men speak less than women generally is that, when we used to live in caves, women would stay behind. They'd take care of the babies and do womanly cave things. I have no idea. Plait each other's hair or keep the fire going, whatever. And they'd chit-chat and socialise, which is why women exchange on a daily basis, and I can't remember what the exact number is, but it's something like 15,000 words a day. Can you believe that?
No.
Well, meanwhile, men utter, 6? Mostly in the form of grunts. That's because they were out hunting buffaloes or wabbits. And they had to be very, very quiet because they were hunting wabbits. And so that's why men have evolved not to say very much, because they didn't want to frighten off the off dinner, essentially. But now we don't have to do that. Then men are yakking away on the internet. It's not so much that they're socialising, really. It's more that they're fighting. So maybe we haven't evolved at all. Maybe we're just exactly as we were. Men don't socialise on the internet, as far as I can tell. They sit in their darkened rooms, and then they type away. No. Well, I don't like this. Well, I don't like that. Moan, moan. That kind of thing. They pick fights with each other. Trolling, I think it's called. And we have and trolling seems to have won the race. It's won the game. Because the most powerful man in the world is the biggest troll in the world. He's just an internet troll. An internet troll with a nuclear button on his desk. Exactly. Well, at least that's what he thinks it is. But it's actually just connected to the Coke machine. He keeps bashing it over and over again, and little fat Kim doesn't explode. But he can start nuclear war, which is kind of alarming. And there's a process which he has to go through. And before I read this, I imagined that it was very, very complicated, and he had to go through, a lot of checks and procedures, and ask somebody who actually knew a thing or two. Put it by a scientist or like a military professional or somebody like that. But he can just see that Kim Jong-un has criticised his hairstyle, and he can insist on the nuclear button. He can just bash it with his tiny, fat little hands. So I'll come to that and in a second and tell you exactly what it is that he has to go through to kill us all. The reason that he isn't going to go anywhere is because the Republican Party are only interested in one thing: tax cuts. They don't care about health reform. They're not really remotely interested in that, other than it costs rich people a lot to keep poor people in health. And so they want to throw them off that straight away, so billionaires can have more disposable income to go and buy more yachts with. That's the only thing they appear to be interested in. I think they're actually properly evil, is what it looks like to me. Just as long as the stock market keeps going up and up and up, that's all they care about. Unless I'm getting any of this wrong, in which case you can correct me.
You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in.
Yes, we did, but they voted for you anyway. Yvonne says, the Donald's lockable bedroom. Is he worried the Sandman might hide his phone? Imagine Donald's fury. The Sandman? Who's the Sandman? What, as in the Chordettes? You're talking about the old rock and roll song?
Rock and roll!
Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. Make him the cutest thing that I've ever seen. Well, nobody would say that about you, Donny. Not even, maybe not even yourself. Give him 2 lips like roses and clover. Tell him that his lonesome nights are over. Mr. Sandman. I've got no idea what that means. Who's Mr. Sandman? I just remember that song from Blue Velvet. That's one of my favourite films of all time. And it puts that song, which is really cutesy 50s song, probably 50s. I'm going to stick my neck out. It's probably from the 1950s, I reckon. Oh, I got that one right. And it takes a cute song and turns it into something weird and dark and evil. But, David Lynch is good at that. Holly says, are you thinking of Clyde, the orangutan from Every Which Way But Loose? That's right. Yeah. Well, he's got those great big long arms that hang down around his knees. He says, talking of orange orangutans, when will Melania leave the Donald? Surely she has at least 2 brain cells to rub together. I think that she's being held captive. Carrie says, our attention spans are shrinking fast and it's definitely the internet's fault. That is absolutely correct. It is the internet's fault. You know, when you try, and I tried this a little while ago, and I gave up, and I thought, this is just terrible, I'm going to go back to CDs. I tried listening to music on YouTube, and it's just so unsatisfactory. Apart from anything else, watching videos when you're listening to music is an unsatisfactory. You're not actually concentrating on the music anymore because your eyes are more important to your brain. It's more attuned visually. Then the music takes a backseat and you're just staring at the images. So that's number one. And people don't make music with the video in mind. The video gets added on afterwards, but then becomes more important than the music. So it's no way to consume music for a start. But even if you just listen to the music, it's still unsatisfactory because I found myself not listening to the end of any track because there was a list of other things that, if I like this, then you might like that. And that's not how it used to be when I were a lad. When I were a lad, you used to be able to turn the lights out and put your headphones on and listen to Johnny Guitar Watson's album all the way through.
Yowza.
Exactly. These days, after about 2 minutes, your attention wanders and you can't concentrate anymore and you want to pick something else to listen to. I spent about an hour and I didn't come to the end of one single song. I thought, to hell with this. CDs, that's the future, baby.
Groovy.
Jenny says the cross-eyed lion Clarence starred in Daktari in the 1960s. That's right. That's who should play. We're going to get Clarence on the phone. We've got a job for him. Clarence the cross-eyed lion can play Donald Trump in the film of this book. Declawed, all his teeth have fallen out. Hasn't stopped him wanting to gum you to death, which is why Melania puts a lock on his door. A bus shelter in Windsor. Dion.
Good evening, Nick.
Hey, Dion.
Yeah,
Have they hosed those tramps off the street yet? For the benefit of the royal family?
I don't know where Windsor came from. I live in Langley.
Oh.
Which is next to Windsor.
Oh, right, well, that's where it came from.
Yeah, I was talking to you the other day about the Windsor thing.
Yeah.
Which has rolled on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
But there you go. Wait about the Sandman. Wasn't it a song by America or Doors as well?
I think it was Metallica did it.
Rock and roll!
But I think the Chordettes is they got in there first.
No, it's not that one. It's completely different lyrics and tune and everything.
Right.
It's called the Sandman. I think it was a B-side on a single anyway. You know them round plastic things.
No.
Yeah, right. Yes, you're on about the button and everything.
Mm.
Yeah, I was watching. It's funny you were talking about YouTube and videos, and there was a video with Genesis, and he had Ronnie Reagan, his wife, and a chimpanzee in bed. It was Land of Confusion.
Right.
And it just went all through the video. It was all the spitting image puppets doing it.
Mm-hmm. I have a vague recollection of that, yeah. Not one of my favourite songs from Genesis. They went a little bit too poppy for me. I did prefer Phil Collins' version. Now, I know this is going to be a controversial thing to say.
Oh, no.
But I did prefer the Phil Collins, the Duke, that sort of thing, rather than the Peter Gabriel English whimsy stuff, which I just really couldn't stay in the same room as, really. Apart from, What Have You Got Up Your Wardrobe, whatever that song was.
Yeah, I mean,
that one.
Yeah, yes, when I was in three.
What's that?
Someone had left an album in this little taverna thing. All the hippies used to live there.
Oh, yeah.
And it was an album called, was it Selling England by the Pound?
Yes, right, yeah, I've got that. Can't listen to it.
I can't say I've really listened to it since I was in Crete.
Painful.
There you go.
I was a Pink Floyd person myself, and I think you had to choose between one of the two. It's like The Who and the Stones. You couldn't like both when I was at school. You had to pick one. You were either a mod or a rocker.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I was at school, well, in the 70s. But, I went the way with Pink Floyd.
I chose the wrong band, by the way. I chose The Who. I don't know what I was thinking of. Probably because I saw The Who. Oh, no, I must have seen The Who much later, because I was about 16 when I saw The Who. It was the second gig I ever saw. Phenomenal. But earlier than that, I had the choice between the Stones and The Who, and I picked The Who, which was the wrong choice. Oh, well, never mind.
The thing is, as you get older, you're allowed to like both.
Yeah, that is correct, yes.
So I like them both. I do. And another thing with YouTube, if you don't want to watch the TV screen, just get some Bluetooth headphones and go and lie in your bedroom and just listen to it.
You could get some gaffer tape and just cover the screen with it.
Put a bin bag over it.
Yeah. Or put a bin bag over your head. In fact, that's probably the best way to appreciate music. Put your headphones on and then secure a plastic bin bag tightly around your head. And that is the official advice of LBC.
Maybe that's what Ivana does to Donny when she goes in his locked bedroom.
Yeah, well, I don't want to even think about it. And neither does she, by the way.
Pardon?
Neither does she.
No, it's funny situation, that, isn't it?
What, funny as in bizarre?
Bizarre, yeah. I think everything he does lately is just bizarre. I mean, it's...
So many people are saying that he's actually, he's lost his mind, as in seriously, there are serious mental issues here, that he doesn't remember anything, he doesn't listen to anybody, he can't read anything, he doesn't take anything on board, he's just lashing out constantly, he consumes television in vast amounts, and when he's not doing that, he's playing golf. He's not actually doing the job of the President of the United States at all. Maybe we're all safer that he's not doing the job as the President, and he's just acting like a 5-year-old whose parents have left the house. He's got his face stuck in a bag of Cheetos, and he's looking for pictures of himself on the television.
But it makes of interesting radio, does it? Because it's a news story every day about it.
Every day. Can you imagine what it would have been like if Hillary Clinton had won?
Boring.
What would we have talked about? Nothing.
Yeah, that's it. It's just if I flick through the news in the morning on the TV, which I don't a lot. There's always something about Trump.
Yeah. He's maximum box office. He's probably the most fascinating person that I can ever remember. I can't think of anybody who's more fascinating and more gripping than him. That nobody or any story has gripped me to the point that when I get up in the morning, I put my phone on immediately to see what he's done overnight while I've been asleep.
My son tells me, my son's 31 now, but he says, Dad, you should watch South Park a bit more. He said it's brilliant.
Well, I think it's either on at the moment or it's just finished. That South Park was pretty good, but the previous series, which was when the race for the presidency was on, I think that was the best coverage of the presidential race, hands down, from anything. No news organisation covered it better, and it was properly funny at the same time. I think that last episode, the previous series of South Park was the best ever.
I think I'll watch it because my son was on about that as well. Because with modern TV, you can watch what you want. Really.
Anytime you like.
So I probably will watch that over the weekend.
Right.
It's sort of light entertainment.
It very much. Well, yeah. It's untaxing. It's a cartoon, Dion.
No, it is, but it is fun. Didn't have cartoons like that when I was a kid. We had Tom Berry and Top Cat.
Yeah, Top Cat is being used by a financial organisation, isn't it? And I'm sorry, but I object. You're taking the icons of my youth in order to sell me a financial product, and it's not even the right voice.
Oh, isn't it? Oh, right. So it's just the cat, one of the others.
Yeah, it's the cat. I think Scooby-Doo is also being roped in to sell a financial organisation, and it's, I don't know, cartoons. Everything on television is a blooming cartoon. It's either a cartoon or a Muppet selling you stuff. Have you noticed?
I don't really watch much TV with the commercials.
No, well, I zip through them at 30 times normal speed.
That's another good thing about
Except when I'm at home with my parents, and of course they haven't actually grasped the concept of recording anything, even though I bought them a recorder, and they absolutely flat out refuse to use it, and they watch everything live, which is excruciating when I'm there.
Get them a smart TV.
No, it's pointless. I've got them a smart recorder.
Oh, right. So
they just won't record anything. They keep watching things live. It's terrible. Yeah. And you know what's on when you're watching television live? Nothing. Ever. There's nothing ever on.
Baking, gardening.
Baking and gardening, yeah. Making a cake in the garden. That'll be the next format. In fact, we should.
I'll let you get the news.
All
anyway.
right, thanks a lot, Dion. Yeah, we should patent that. And by this time next year, Dion, we'll be millionaires. Edward says, I think the true likeness you're looking for Trump is the Tango Man. They banned him, didn't they? Because kids were slapping each other up around the face. Or, I can't remember what it was. It made me laugh, though, that advert. I'm laughing just thinking about it. It's like Donald Trump is the Tango Man, and he slapped us all up about the face. Oliver says, I don't think it's social media that's messed up the next generation. I think it's the education system that has. Well, what about the education system? No, I think it's social media. I think it's the internet in general. I think it's this lack of attention. The attention span's at 0 now. Nobody can attend to anything anymore. Here's Grays. Hello, Khan.
Hi, Nick. Thanks for having me on. The point I'm trying to make, Nick, I was listening to one of your callers earlier on, and he made a comment around Donald, and he said he doesn't think that we'd have a leader likened to Donald Trump. And as much as I wish that would never be the case, it's probably something that I'm slightly concerned about. And the reason I'm saying that is, based on the nuclear button per se and these threats to North Korea and pushing that precious button, I was just going back to the leaders' debate, or so-called leaders' debate, last year between Jeremy Corbyn and Theresa May.
Yeah.
What absolutely astonished me was Jeremy Corbyn got pressed, I think, by Jeremy Paxton on whether or not he'd be prepared to go to nuclear war. And I'm pretty sure you remember that conversation. And Jeremy obviously didn't want to clarify or confirm whether he's prepared to go to nuclear war and so forth. But I suppose what astonished me the day after was the sort of the repercussions from the media and the sort of appetite from a lot of the public, where everyone was really, is he not prepared to go to war?
I know. Here was the reaction from the right-wing press. They said, do you mean to say that you're not prepared to incinerate the entire planet? What kind of a traitor are you? They said.
Absolutely. And for me, the question I'm asking myself, and I'm sort of putting out there is there, I know it's not the absolute same thing, but is there a similarity from Donald Trump saying, well, actually, I'll push this button, to Jeremy Corbyn saying, actually, I don't want to confirm that I'm prepared to go to nuclear war.
And everybody goes berserk.
Yeah, absolutely. So the people who went berserk, I think these people should ask themselves the same question. Well, actually, am I sort of pro-Trump or anti-Corbyn? Because really, you can't have the same argument.
No, I completely agree with you. I think that if we sit in smugness and think, we would never go down that road, we would never elect anybody that was that nuts, well, I think we need to take a long, hard look at ourselves, because I think that's exactly what we could do.
Yeah, I mean, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have imagined that we would have voted out. And I'm not Brexit, and for to be fair, I'm not particularly concerned about us going out. I am concerned, but I suppose what I was concerned about was the reasoning behind people voting out. And
yeah, well, 10 years ago,
many people.
Yeah, 10 years ago, 10 years ago, I would never have imagined that we would vote Nigel Farage to be an MP. Oh no, that's right. No, we didn't.
Absolutely, yeah.
Over and over again, we didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose that's my nervousness, where if we're naive to the fact that it will never happen, I think that's the start of the problem, because there is a trend, and it is in Britain, and we just need to be less naive to imagine that it would never happen. So
all we have to do is exactly. We have to just get too comfortable in our superiority, and then we're done for.
Warning!
Yeah, keep vigilant at all times. Excellent work.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot, Khan.
Absolutely. Cheers, mate.
Ta-da, 0345 6060 973. I still haven't got to Donald Trump's nuclear button. His big fat nuclear button. It's huge. John says, can you remember one single landline number now? I could memorise at least about 5 once, now just one, my own. I've got no idea what my landline number is. People ask me what my landline number is, and I have to look at my mobile phone to see what my landline number is. If you put a gun to my head, I wouldn't be able to tell you what my landline number is. Not a clue. The only people that call me on my there's only one person that calls me on. No, that's untrue. Two types of person that call me on my mobile phone, on my landline. One is wrong numbers, and the other is my mum. And when the phone goes, I know that it's going to be my mum, because nobody else ever calls me on my landline, ever. Which is, speaking as a talk show host, it's bad, because can they make a mobile phone that can actually make a phone call that you can hear the person on the other end of the phone? No, not even £1,000 phone can make a legible phone call. I have no idea why. We can put a man on Mars, and we can't put a phone message from one person to another on a mobile phone that anybody can actually hear. So if you do own a landline, it would be great if you could use it when you call in. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. I wonder what that message meant that I read out just some moments ago. That they didn't think that the problem was social media, that it was the education system. Well, what are they doing now, education-wise, that they didn't used to do? Apart from belting the hell out of you. Apart from that bit, what's changed? I mean, they're still learning their multiplication tables, ain't they? 6, 6 are 42. I mean, once you remember that, you never forget it. Am I right? I mean, mental arithmetic, that's easy. 9 plus 9 is 17. I mean, what kind of an idiot doesn't know that? They still learn all that stuff, don't they? I mean, they still read books, surely. So something has happened between then and now to cause people to have no patience for anything anymore. People don't buy albums anymore. They just buy tunes, and they don't listen to the end of the tune. About halfway through, they get bored of it, and they want to listen to someone else. So that's the internet, that is. Thanks a lot, Tim Berners-Lee. We like the puppy dog videos, but apart from that, not much. Michael says, I can't wait to read Michael Wolff's book. Donald Trump's fake news attack had me thinking. I went to my local bank branch, and the service was terrible. I waited 3 hours. 3 hours? What? 3 hours? He said, I had a dispute with the manager. I said the bank was fake and the manager was fake, and 2 days later they deposited £200 compensation in my account and apologised for the poor service. Wow, he says. As in... Groovy. Yeah, wow. Far out, man. What are you talking about? You waited 3 hours for what? What, were they printing the money out the back? I've talked about banks now. Banks aren't banks anymore. They're time-wasting facilities. I don't know why. They've all changed. Have you been in a bank lately? It used to be a rather unlovely, unwelcoming grey place where people would queue to talk to somebody behind the counter and deposit their cheque for £5. Now it's a place where they don't have bulletproof glass or any of that because they don't have any money there. Money, sir? Oh, no, we don't do that here. This is a bank. Would you like to take a seat on the sofa, and somebody with an iPad will see you shortly. Please help yourself to a complimentary water and a foot massage. I don't know what they're trying to do, trying to make us feel like we want to go to the bank now. Nobody wants to go to the bank. Ever. And we certainly don't want to sit on your slightly stained blue sofa, for crying out loud. Just give us our money and we can get out of here. £200 well, I waited in a bank once. Where's my £200 compensation? Pauline says, we didn't even have a phone in the house. The highlight of the day was putting money in the smelly phone box to listen to what record was number one. I remember that. That's right. Used to make a phone call to see what record was number one. And it was always Chirpy Chirpy Cheep Cheep.
Rock and roll!
Or something excruciatingly bad like that. Yeah, and you know what the smell in the phone box was? Exactly. Never mind about the smell in the phone box. How about the smell that used to emanate from the actual handset? Ugh. Kids won't have any idea what I'm talking about now. You don't know. You're born, kids. But we used to have to use a telephone that thousands of other smelly people had used before us. And I don't know what their cleaning regimens used to be, but they used to deposit vast amounts of earwax all over the trumpet, or whatever you call it, the receiver. I mean, greasy like you wouldn't believe. And so I had to. It can't possibly have been just me. You used to have to wipe the earpiece on your clothing before you put it up to your ear.
Disgusting.
Awful. And then you have to go home and chip off with a chisel all of the dried detritus from your clothing where you'd wiped off the earpiece. But there was nothing you could do about the mouthpiece, because that was a cup. It was a cup that was a depository for a level of germs that science still has not been able to identify. Oh, there was stuff in there that would probably survive in space. The smell of it. That's right. If you wanted to know what was number one, then you had to use somebody else's phone that millions of people had used before you that was standing in a box that other people had used as a urinal. And then you would call up some recorded person who would tell you what the number one was. Like it mattered. But that was when number ones actually sold hundreds of thousands of copies, as opposed to 6 like they do today. And not every entry in the top 10 was by Ed Bloomin' Sheeran.
Boring.
Ugh. Thanks for all the tunes, Ed, but you have delighted us enough. This one says, I've always wondered why companies try to sell to adults using Muppets or cartoon characters. It's rather irritating. Maybe they do it because the majority of us never truly grow up. Well, that part's true, but that's not why they do it. It's because it's instant recognition. Because we have a part of ourselves invested in those cartoon characters. You know, all those TV cartoons of our youth, of our childhood. Instantly recognise them, we feel warm and positively about them. And by connecting them with their product, we feel warm and positively about their product. Yeah, I object to it massively. And the reason that we haven't seen the Flower Pot Men selling anything, by the way, is because Luby Lou has lodged a sexual harassment assault allegation.
Disgusting.
The stuff that used to go on in those pots.
Want to score some pot?
Not that kind of pot. Enfield. Hello, Jackie.
Hi, Nick. You make me laugh. Do you know what? I've missed you during the week when we had you, when you were on. It's like, it was, I missed all the little jingles you do.
Oh.
And today you've come back to life.
Yeah,
come alive again.
It's all burst out of me.
So I missed all that. But it was nice having you on during the week.
Oh, thanks,
it was
Jackie.
Nice. It was like a bonus.
Right.
Right, well, you were talking about mobiles and using the landline.
Yeah.
I do like the landline.
Are you speaking to me on a landline?
I am.
See, that's why I can hear every word you're saying. It's like you're talking to me from next door.
Yes, well, I am next door, but don't tell anyone. Yes, the landline is more solid. It's more, you know, I just prefer it.
Well, apart from anything else, Jackie, your landline is not giving you a brain tumour. It's not sending... I mean, you might as well stick your head in the microwave and just use a mobile phone. I don't know that that's true, but whether it's a scientific fact or not, I choose to believe it, which makes it true.
Yeah. I mean, mobiles, people don't really talk on mobiles, though, do they? They do everything else on those mobiles but talk on them.
I think the one great thing about a mobile is that you don't actually have to talk to anybody. I think the texting thing is it's tremendous. As long as the person that you're texting doesn't want a conversation by text, and then it becomes a nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, some people. Yeah, some people. I know I don't want to get into a conversation with them, so I tend to ignore some people who text me, because I know if I text them back, even if it's "Are you free on Friday?" it'll be a yes, and then they'll say something back, and then which requires an answer, and then like half an hour later, your phone is still going ping. That just drives me up the wall.
Yeah. I've got a family. We've got a family group, where all the time you hear the ding dong.
Yeah, it's painful. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, you know, I hate it when people bring out their mobiles anyway.
Well, it's very, very rude in a social situation when you put your mobile on the table. That just drives me nuts.
Well, my sister has banned the mobile in the sitting area.
Quite right.
Leave it in the passageway.
Yeah. Hey, did you read that article about your mobile phone is actually, and I was talking about this a little while ago, your mobile phone is spying on you all the time, but I didn't realise quite how much. It's actually listening to what you're watching.
Listening to what you're watching?
If you have your phone when you're watching TV in the same room as the television, it knows it's listening to what you're watching and is listening to the adverts that you are seeing, so that it can reinforce those adverts by presenting you with that message again on your phone, on whatever apps it is that you open. Your phone is listening to you all the time, and it is quite likely to be watching you as well.
Oh, no.
Yes.
I better be careful.
I know.
But you know, also, you were talking about the cartoons. The cartoons that do the adverts.
Yeah.
Top Cat, he was one of my favourites.
I know, I love that cat.
Most friends go to call him TC. Yes. So.
Oh, that was it. You were just strolling down memory lane. Yeah, talking about Top Cat and Officer Dibble and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Jackie. Bobby says, I don't think that Donny really has got a bigger nuclear button. It's just that his hands are so tiny, the button on his desk looks like a dustbin lid. Patrick says, I'd be unsurprised if Donald Trump hasn't asked Kim Jong-un to swap measurements. And then he gets into excruciating detail. Well, as we know, Donald Trump actually told us this. He said it out loud. He has no problems in that area, I can tell you. And Melania is stifling a smirk. Jason says, has it been confirmed whether the lock on Trump's door is on the inside or the outside? No. No, it has not been confirmed, no. We don't know. We can only guess. Cheltenham. Hello, Andrea.
Hello.
Andrea.
Yep, I'm on my home phone.
Ah, yes.
I've had it a month. And the only call I get is from my mum.
Yeah.
And she phones me up and talks about the varicose veins on her legs. So she goes, hi, darling. I've got these big, horrible veins on my leg. And I'm like, why would you phone up about that?
Yeah, you're thinking...
Stop whining!
Oh, it's just... And then she goes, I'm going on holiday. And I'm like, you're 82, Mum. Who's going to be looking at your legs? Well, I look at everyone else. And I'm like, Mum, you're 82, just wear a caftan.
Well,
God.
Yeah, don't go around in shorts when you're 82 years old.
No, exactly.
Nobody wants to see that.
And what's the other thing? I miss Little House on the Prairie and the Waltons.
Oh, How much?
You know,
I'm getting
I do.
diabetic just thinking about it, Andrea. That is just too sugary sweet for me. The Waltons.
Oh yes, I wanted my life to be like that. I really thought it
In
would
soft
be.
focus and sepia toned.
With John Boy and Sue Ellen, and it's been nothing like that. It's been awful. Yeah.
Right, so you wanted it to be, bucolic, really, where no major problem occurred that couldn't be solved within 60 minutes. Yeah.
Yes, I thought that I'd have 8 children, they'd all love each other and bellow down the hallway. I had 1.
Yeah.
And he's a bit difficult.
How old?
18.
Oh, well.
Hates me.
Well, I think that's called being 18, Andrea.
Is it?
Yeah, come back in 30 years.
Really? That long?
Well, it depends.
I never hated my mother, Nick. I loved my mother.
Well, I don't know. You've done nothing but moan about her since you came onto this show.
Well, only her veins.
Right.
Vile. But, yeah.
Well, get him out of the house, Andrea. Is he going to go to university? Please tell me that he's going to go to university. Not going to university.
He's in Leeds.
Oh, okay.
No, he's...
And how far away from where you are is Leeds?
Oh, 3 hours.
Oh, well, that's perfect. See, that's just far enough away that he can't come home and give you all his laundry and come back for food and money and all of the rest of it, but not so far away that he can't visit, during holidays.
Nick, they have Tesco delivery or, Aldi delivery or whatever.
Students are using delivery... What?
No, the mothers feel like, oh, my darling, I better send Tesco to you. Because if you don't... Nick, if you don't send it to them, what are they spending that £40 on? Have a think.
Fanta and Rizzlers.
Rizzlers, probably. But do you know what I mean? So I'd rather get the food there rather than... And I say to him, if you're buying shopping, I want the receipt. But then he doesn't put the date on it, so anyone could have bought the food.
Andrew, you have to cut the cord. He has to learn to feed himself. I mean, he will be eating sausages that he cooked 3 weeks ago, and scraping the mould off from the fridge, and drinking somebody else's milk, and there'll be fights about it. But, the kids have got to learn all that stuff.
Yeah, he's an only child, though, Nick.
Push him away, Andrea, and then he'll want to come back.
I'll try.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, thanks a lot. But don't take my word for it. Always speak to a psychological professional before taking any action. Don't listen to me. Nobody should listen to me. I still haven't gotten to Donald Trump's big, huge nuclear button. It is quite alarming what he can do. I thought that there would be some big procedure that the president would have to go through, but apparently not. A president can be all... and he still has control of the nuclear button. It's kind of alarming, but I'll try and get to that in the next section. What was that story about Twitter? Twitter has said it would not block world leaders or remove their controversial tweets. It follows calls to remove the US President Donald Trump. That still doesn't seem right, does it? US President Donald Trump. Can you believe it? Even he can't believe it.
I'm president! Can you believe it?
No. It follows calls to remove US President Donald Trump from the Twitter platform. In a blog, the company says Twitter exists to serve and help the global public conversation. No, it doesn't. It exists to make money. Who are you kidding? And it says, and therefore we would not remove content from elected world leaders. Well, Donald Trump does have the best words.
I'm very highly educated. I know words. I have the best words.
I know words. I have the best words. He is 5 years old. Stoke-on-Trent. Hello, Liz.
Hi, Nick.
Liz.
Jackie, the lady that 3 or 4 calls ago, she stole my thunder. I was going to say how wonderful it's been to have a fortnight of you in a row.
Oh, thanks, Liz.
That's fabulous. Anyway, the reason why I called Nick was, do you really not know what a Sandman is, or were you just joshing?
Well, no, I know the song, Mr. Sandman, bring us a dream.
Yeah, but do you know what the Sandman is?
Give him a pair of eyes with come hither gleam. Now, somebody has tweeted, Catherine has said, the Sandman is a mythical character who puts children to sleep and brings good dreams by sprinkling magical sand in their eyes.
What?
That doesn't sound like it would give you a good dream. That sounds like it would send you to A&E. Sand?
And that's when you have the sleep in your eye, in the corner of your eye when you wake up.
Oh.
So you don't miss Sandman.
Is that what that is?
Disgusting. Anyway, the other thing I was going to mention is...
The rest of that lyric, by the way, just before you mention your other thing, is give him a lonely heart like Pagliacci. Who's that?
Sorry, say all that again.
Give him a pair of eyes with a come hither gleam. Give him a lonely heart like Pagliacci. Who's that?
Oh, I don't know.
And lots of hair, wavy hair like Liberace. I know who Liberace is. In fact, if Liberace was still alive, he'd be a shoo-in to play Donald Trump in the film of this book. He's got. They both wear as much makeup as it looks like. Both of them pushed their face into a bucket of makeup and then just scraped it off with a trowel. They got white teeth that you could use as car headlights, and not so much hairdos as hair don'ts. He wouldn't even have to change his appearance one iota. Donald Trump is Liberace.
Well, I don't know. I've got two characters that might play him better.
Oh, go on then.
In looks and appearance. But the thing is, I don't know what they look like now. I've only seen them in old films.
Okay, who are we talking about?
One is, have you heard of Patrick Birkin?
Patrick Birkin? No.
Yes.
Wait a minute. I'll Google him. Other search engines are available, but nobody uses them.
He is fit an image of you know that pouty mouth that Trump does.
Hang on. Wait a minute. Okay, hang on. Patrick Bergin. Right. Ooh, it's amazing how I'm constantly stunned by the success of this voice recognition thing, aren't you? Patrick Bergin.
No, Birkin with a K.
Oh, Birkin. All right, because there is a Patrick Bergin. He doesn't look anything like him. Birkin. Right. Birkin with a K. There's no such person. It says, did you mean Patrick Bergin?
Oh, sorry. I thought it was Birkin.
Berkin. No such person.
Must be with a G then. Sorry.
Oh, right. Well, then I think you are disseminating misinformation, Liz.
Does he not look like him now, then?
Patrick Bergin doesn't look anything like him, no. He's
oh, right. Well, in
an Irish actor. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, he doesn't have an Irish accent in the old. I've seen even recently a couple of films with him in them, but it was a few years ago now, and he was the spitting image, even to the pout of his lips, right. Everything apart from Trump's hair.
Well, that pout of that Donald Trump has got, it always looks to me like my old pet cat walking away. A little bit.
And the other likeness is, again, I think he's very old now, or I don't even know if he's still alive, and that's Brian Dennehy.
Okay, now wait a minute. Don't say anything. Brian Dennehy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right, that guy. Yeah, I know who he is.
Yeah.
He's that fella from that thing.
And he doesn't look too like Trump, but he'd make a good Trump, I think, with makeup.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Clarence the Cross-Eyed Lion.
Oh, right. All right then, Nick. All right.
Thanks a lot, Liz.
Thank you. Bye.
So, Donald Trump is not going to get booted off Twitter, no matter what he says. Good. I think it would be something of a safe space if he weren't on it, but it would be like a lot less unpredictable, a lot less bizarre and weird. Patrick says, never mind Ivanka. Oh no, I read that one. How does Trump know the book is lies? Has he read it? Well, anything that is not that does not paint Donald Trump in a good light. And I think if you want to paint Donald Trump in a good light, it would have to be really, really dark. He just calls lies and fake and made up and all the rest of it. If you're not actually prostrating yourself in front of him and kissing his shoes, then he thinks that everything you say is a lie. He is he's the thinnest skinned, neediest man baby that the world has ever seen. How? This is a proof that there is no such thing as God. How has that man become the most powerful person on earth? How? Romford. Hello, Moya.
Oh, hi, Nick.
Moya.
I'm just interested in listening to talking about telephones.
Oh, yes.
Because I don't have a mobile phone.
What?
I know. Everybody says that. I don't like them at all. This is the landline I'm talking to you on.
But when you leave the house, Moya...
Yes?
Do you should take a mobile phone with you, because what if you fall?
Oh, well, when I say I don't have one, I take one on holiday, and that's the only time I ever use one.
Right. But that's
I can remember the telephone boxes where you press button A and you put your money in.
Right, we're going back. That's ancient history now,
and if
Moya.
you never got your money back and the phone didn't answer, you press button B and you got your money back.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yes, not all the time, no, sometimes. But I mean, I hate mobile phones. I think they're an intrusion, and I think the children that have got so addicted to them is just terrible.
Well, it's not by accident they've got addicted to them. All those pings and bongs and beeps and tweets, they set off a reward mechanism in the brain. It's kind of like heroin or cocaine or something like that.
Yeah, it must be. It's like all these people that are on Facebook. I've no idea what Facebook is. I've no idea what Twitter is. I don't have a computer. I don't have an iPad. I don't have a tablet. I don't have anything.
Well, I think for safety's sake, you should take an emergency mobile phone with you. You don't have to have an expensive one. Doesn't have to be one of these
no. I've got a
smartphones,
very cheap, funny one that I've had. My sister's made me get it, actually.
Yeah.
For the reason that I take it out when I go on holiday.
Yes.
But I'm not so... When I hear that people have them by their bed at night they can't stop glancing at them I think they did a survey of how long you could go without looking at a mobile phone. I don't get that at all. I know I'm old, but I just don't get what they do. I mean, and also, why would you want to speak to all these people 24 hours a day?
You know, I talked to a friend of mine, and he said that he was woken up one night because his phone went off, and I said, you actually have your phone on all night?
Absolutely.
And he looked at me like I was mad because I turned my phone off.
Yes, of course. I can't understand why they take them to the bedroom and have them on, and every 2 minutes they're waking up and looking to see if this. Why is it so important that they miss something? And I think when you go into the shops and you're waiting to get served and you've got the girl on the mobile phone, I think it is so rude. And as for taking them to a restaurant and putting them down by the side of them,
awful.
I think that is so disrespectful.
It is terrible because they have the phone that it doesn't just go ping, it lights up as well.
But they're not listening to what you're saying,
At
Nick,
all.
because all they're worried about is who's going to come through on the mobile phone that they've got on the side of the plate.
And I think there's two things going on. First, it's like a popularity thing. How popular I am.
Of course.
But the second thing is it does reward you. There's some sort of chemical that squirts about your brain when your phone goes off, and it's like a reinforcing feedback loop.
I don't know what it is, but I just think you travel. I travel on the trains, and you go into a carriage, and every single one's on something, or they've got things in their ears, or they're doing on something. I mean, I still write books. I buy paper books. I still go to the library. I buy a newspaper every other day.
Every other day?
Yeah, I just don't get this. I know.
But what if you miss something on the day that you didn't buy a newspaper, Moya?
Well, then I watch the news and I get it on the news.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, I just don't get it. I know everybody says I'm a dinosaur, but I just not interested in it. And when you say I've got 400 friends, how can anybody have 400 friends?
They haven't.
I have 3 friends that I've known 50 years, and they're my school friends.
Actual real life friends.
Yeah, they're my real life friends.
As opposed to pretend friends.
We can talk and and we have conversations.
Yeah.
And when we want to talk to people, we don't send it. I don't know how to text anyway. I don't know how you do that.
Well, I do think that texting, when people, I can't remember who it was who invented the mobile phone, but they put texting on as an add-on. They had the extra space in the phone, so they just thought, nobody will actually use this. And
I can remember when they first came out in the city in the 80s, and they were like great big bricks.
Oh, huge, yeah.
And I was a telephonist for nearly 30 years. And we always used to say, when we first went, I'm going back a long while, I was in the GPO when I was 15. And when we always used to say, wouldn't it be so nice if we could see the person that we were talking to at the other end? And now,
now you can, not so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm too old now. I've given it up.
So Moya, just for the benefit of my, I'll cart you up and use it frequently if it works out well. How did you used to answer the phone?
Well, when I was a telephonist,
Yeah.
number please. I was in the GPO, and then we used to have an emergency desk. And if there was an emergency, there was a red light, and it used to flash. And I mean, going back to the 50s, I was in the GPO, and you used to say, emergency, which service, please? And we worked in a great big room, and you stood on the chairs to put the plugs in the top, you know, the old plug telephone?
Yeah.
And you plugged in the plugs. But it was, and I used to have the trumpet up the front, you know, when you see the old films, you have the trumpet up the front. And you used to put a tissue under that because it used to make your blouse dirty.
Icky.
And you used to have to ask to go to the toilet. You used to have to put your hand up.
Yeah. And then leave the room, hopefully.
Yeah, you had all these ladies walking around, the supervisors, and you had to put your hand up, and they would come over and say, what is it? And you used to say, we'd like an urgent. We used to call them an urgent. And we could go out for only amount of time. If you were out there any longer, they came and got you.
And so, imagine that you're back at that place of work.
Yeah.
And I'll play the phone ringing, and then you play the person that answers the phone, all right? Ring, ring.
Hello, how can I help you?
Right,
Number, please.
We'll try that again, because you sort of stumbled over it a little bit more, yeah? Imagine that you're applying for a position.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, right. Ring, ring.
Hello?
Is that it?
No, I mean, what you're asking me to answer you as a caller.
Yeah,
if you're ringing in.
Okay, here we go.
I would say number, please.
Well, no, wait a minute. Ring, ring.
Number, please.
Right.
Then you give me the number, and I will plug it into all the different plugs in the board.
Westminster
Then I would say, trying to connect you. Sorry to keep you waiting.
That's perfect. I'm going to cart. Do you mind if I cart that up and I use it on my show?
No, of course not. I think we used to say, what was the phrase now? I can't remember. It's such a long time ago. Oh, I can't remember. But I loved it. I loved the old switchboards. I loved the plug boards. I wouldn't want to work now in all these newfangled. Well, I don't know how to do it anyway. But all the old phones, all the doll's eyeballs, when you used to have to wind the handle to make the noise of the phone. It was wonderful. I loved it. I mean, I'm 75 now, but I mean, I absolutely loved it.
75, everybody.
I had a great 30 years in the city, and before that I was in the GPO. But I mean, I loved all about my job, and I retired at 65. But I mean, I missed it, and now I just don't think they get any pleasure out of the phones now. That we used to, you know, you'd say, "Oh, we waited for so and so to ring us tonight. Oh, we've all got to be ready," and you know that they would be ringing you at such and such a time.
And so when the phone went, that phrase that you used to ring, ring.
Yes. Ring, yeah. Oh, something we used to say. I mean, there's like 7 of us in my family, and one of us was, "Oh, for goodness sake, go and answer the phone." But now when the phone rings, people can't get to them fast enough. But we used to say, "Oh no, somebody go and answer the phone." My mother used to say, "The phone's ringing." My brother said, "Oh, I'm not answering it." So there was 4 or 7 of us. Go and answer the phone. But I just don't get it. That's all I've got to say. And it made me laugh when you were talking about the smell in the phone boxes, because there was a smell in phone boxes.
A little bit smelly, yeah, exactly.
There was a certain smell in
a little
phone
bit
boxes,
odoriferous, yeah, exactly.
But you didn't get anywhere else.
No, that's right. I've never smelled like it in my life.
No, exactly. You never got it anywhere else. You always got it in the red phone boxes.
Yeah, it was like...
And you had the directory inquiries now. Does anybody ever have a directory inquiry now?
No. That smell...
You had A to D, E to K, L to R, and S to Z.
Right.
And they were the 4 London directories. But you don't ever see a directory.
We used to get them delivered to our house, Moya.
Yes. Yes.
That was the paperboy's worst nightmare.
That's right, yeah, the directories.
All right, Moya, it's been a delight. I've got to go, but thanks for that.
Yeah. Thank you, Nick.
Ta-da. That smelled, by the way, it was like French kissing a moose. It was awful. Wasn't she great?
What number are you calling from?
I'll see if I can cart her up and use her frequently. Hello, Rob.
Oh, hi. Hi, Nick. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. Nick, before I start, could I just say, I remember speaking to you... No, I didn't speak to you. I was listening to you when you were on Virgin Radio back in about 1994.
Oh, yeah.
And you introduced me to Oasis when I was a student, 18, and basically saved my life because you kept playing Live Forever. I think you played Live Forever 2 or 3 times in a row when you were supposed to.
Really?
And yeah, you kept playing it. That was you, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Hopefully it was you. Anyway, I think you introduced me to Oasis, and that ended up saving my life. But,
wow.
Anyway.
Happy to have helped.
Yes, mate. Yeah, well, I used to listen to you quite a lot on my in those days. Anyway, to Trump.
Yes.
Trump. How the hell did he get elected? I mean, I've come across narcissists in my life. I've come across one narcissist that I've had to work with, and they are basically psychopaths, aren't they?
Well, they're very dangerous people because they're only interested in themselves, which is okay if you're running a coffee shop or you're, if you're sitting at home writing a book, but is not okay if you're running a country.
No. Or if you're working with them and they're in charge of maybe your boss or something like that.
Yeah.
Directly. So I had this guy who was I now look back at him and I know that he was a narcissist, and that everything he did was to make himself feel bigger and better than you.
Yeah.
And to do that, quite often what he would do would put you, his whole MO would be to put you down, to make you feel smaller.
Well, that's exactly what Donald Trump does.
It is exactly what Donald Trump does. And I can't believe that we're in a situation now that in the greatest democracy on earth, the greatest country on earth, America, that I would say, that you've got basically how did that happen? You've got a dictator running the greatest democracy on earth.
Well, you say it's the greatest democracy, but I think that there's a lot of a few people with vast amounts of money working furiously to make it not a democracy. People who are spending hundreds of millions of, if not billions of dollars, trying to take the country in the direction that they want, and to some extent that's happening here as well. People that don't actually have
and who are you talking about when you say that?
Some oily characters with dodgy Russian money and dodgy and some not necessarily people who who bank offshore so that they don't have to actually pay for the upkeep of this country or America, and who are spending money to change the direction of both countries. It's just alarming what's happening. It is
alarming. So it all comes back to, okay, so you're talking about people that own this country, basically, or own America, that aren't actually the elected representatives of those countries. You're talking about big business, basically.
No, it's not even that big business. I'm talking about individuals with evil on their mind.
Really? You'd actually say evil? You go that far to say evil?
I would. I mean, if your plan is if you're a billionaire and you think that people who earn less than you are lesser people, they're not actually as good human beings as you are, and their needs are of no concern, and because you earn more money, you are a better person, and your will should be adhered to, then that is alarming, and those are the kind of people that are running America at the moment. It's just alarming.
Running the world, but then what you're saying is that people that are running the world are actually psychopaths. They are narcissistic psychopaths.
It helps to be a psychopath to get on in business and probably politics as well, because if you were a kind, caring and considerate person, then you probably wouldn't take decisions that would harm other people. But in order to get ahead, you have to steamroller over everybody that gets in your way and crush everybody else's hopes and dreams. And it's like Trump's thing is, if it's not good enough that he wins, everybody else has to lose as well. He's actually said that.
Has he?
Yeah, he said that out loud. It's in his Art of the Deal book. It's not good enough that he wins. Everybody else has to lose.
Yeah. Well, I've just bought his book on Amazon today. It doesn't come till the 10th of January, but I can't wait to read it because it's just going to be... I mean, I don't know how much of it is fiction and how much of it is actually fact, but it's going to be a good read, and I can't wait to get stuck into it. But I can't understand that. I've always looked up to America. I've always looked up to America since I was a kid. You know, shining cities and all this. Listening to U2 about Joshua Tree and Rattle and Hum and all that sort of thing. And how the hell do they get in this state? I understand that the working class in America have got they've got a chip on the shoulder about not having, jobs going to China and all this sort of thing. I understand all that. But how have they got this bloke in power that's basically a dictator, a narcissistic.
Well, he wants to be a dictator. That's why he coaches up to other. That's why he coaches up to other dictators, because he wants to be like them. He wants to have. He wants to have. Yeah, pretty much. He wants to have the power to dictate his will without any comeback. And at the moment, he's frustrated because they.
So how do we overcome that? How do we beat that? How do we beat that? How does America beat that?
Yeah.
Or do we? Or do we just resign ourselves to it and surrender and say,
I'm going to take that out. I mean, he was okay, but I think he just went a little bit too far. Yeah, I get it. How are we going to deal with how do you solve a problem like Kidani? Time, I suppose. I mean, as long as he doesn't actually bring us to war...
I'll bring us into war.
Then just time will solve it. I mean, America took one step forward. It's amazing that it used to be that George W. Bush was the bar that was set for maximum stupidity.
Absolutely.
And now he looks like a statesman by comparison, don't he? But, America took one step forward with Barack Obama. And then middle white America had a conniption fit that a black man, like an urban elite black man, was in charge. And so they wanted a stupid white person. That's exactly what they got. That's pretty much what they got.
You are going to love President Trump.
Somebody who gave them simple answers to complicated questions. Everything's going to be great and huge and tremendous. We're going to make America great, build a wall, all this daft stuff. And they thought, oh yeah, that's what we want. Plus, he's white-ish, kind of orange-ish, but not black. That's the key. Time. It's pretty smart, actually, what they've done. I mean, this is a nature of how evil they are. This tax cut that they just had will get a little bit of money to a lot of people initially. In 8 years' time, they're going to take all of that back. In 8 years' time, people are going to be paying more tax, unless you're a millionaire, and particularly if you're a billionaire. But in 8 years' time, of course, Donnie won't be president anymore. It's going to be somebody else's fault. Because people won't look back and think, oh, well, it was the Republicans and it was Trump who did that to my paycheck today. It's whoever's in charge today who will be blamed for the removal of their tax cuts. So that's pretty smart and pretty evil on their part. Of course, the tax cuts for the billionaires, they don't expire in 8 years' time. It's just the tax cuts for everybody else that expire. But in the meantime, you'll think, wow, this guy's is tremendous.
He's a great guy. He's a good guy. He's a good person.
Yeah, that's what they'll think. I've got $100 more this month than I did last month. And you know who is the President of the United States of America?
I can be more presidential than anybody.
So it must be him. I'm going to vote for Donnie again. And in another 4 years, or in, what is it now? Like another 6 years when he's finally out, because I think he probably will be a two-term president, as long as they don't lock him up. At that point, tax cuts will start to unwind, and most people will be paying more, but they won't blame Donald Trump. They'll blame whoever's in power then. And if Donald Trump's a two-time president, then it's most likely going to be a Democrat, swings and roundabouts. And so they'll blame the Democrats for the tax hike, but it's not them at all. It's the Republicans. Pretty smart, pretty evil. Let's have a call in Wimbledon. Nadia.
Good evening, Nick.
Nadia.
I really love your program. I really look forward to hearing you.
Oh, thanks, Nadia.
And what I was going to say was, I'm exactly the same as you. I'm completely hooked on Trump. I get up and I look at CNN News, Fox News. Then on my mobile phone I have the New York Times. I just want to see what he's up to.
It's an unhealthy obsession, Nadia, and I can't...
No, it's a lovely obsession. When it's so depressing with everything, he lightens my day. I tell you, in the Evening Standard on page 19, there's an amazing advert, a cartoon by Adams. and it's a big burger in an orange colour that says,
"Oh yeah,
that book is full of junk."
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
I've just looked at it as we've been speaking. Yeah,
I think that is just perfect because obviously, you know, he's paranoid about getting food poisoning.
Yeah, that's why he has a McDonald's all the time.
Exactly,
Because the
all that junk food. And I've noticed the last year he's really packed on some weight. He has, though. I mean, and with Kim Jong-un liking his cheese so much, round, you never know. One of them might have a heart attack. I wouldn't wish it, but they're on looking that way.
Well, they look like... you remember when there's a television program that actually does this now? I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called Big Heads or Eggheads or not Eggheads. Big Heads. So people It's a Knockout used to do this. They used to dress people up in gigantic, fat suits essentially, and then they used to fight with each other and fall over, much to the merriment of everyone. They kind of look like that. I would like to see them both greased up and fighting with each other. Wouldn't that be funny?
But you know, Kim Jong-un has an obsession with cheese.
Does he?
Come on, Bear, I understand from what I hear. He has it privately. I don't know now because of all the sanctions and everything. But before, he was having that shipped in. One of my friends had told me that.
If Kim Jong-un wants cheese, he gets cheese.
Yes, it's Common Bear, definitely.
Right.
I'm going back down memory lane. I don't know if you ever watched the series Drop the Dead Donkey.
Yes, remind me.
It was very political.
Drop the Dead Donkey. What was that?
You would love it. It was all about journalists, latest news coming in.
Oh, right. Yes. I think that was one of those British comedy shows that didn't make me laugh, so I didn't...
Oh, didn't it? I just thought it was very up-to-date. It was really quite... You say you weren't a fan of it.
I think that's one of the problems of programs that are topical...
Yes.
Which don't have very many writers. Now, I don't know for sure, but I would imagine as it's a British programme, they didn't actually spend the money on a lot of writers. So it was a few people. Well, I don't know that this is true. I would imagine that it was a few people trying to come up with a lot of material, and that's usually why British topical comedy programmes fall flat in their face, is because they don't have enough, they didn't spend enough on the writing.
But there isn't much now, though, Nick, to be honest.
No, there
That's
isn't.
why I'm always looking at documentaries and news.
Well, I tell you what, the best topical comedy shows at the moment are the American talk shows, because they will have they'll have 12 people writing 20 minutes of material.
Correct. I agree.
You know,
Well,
Bill Maher is
enjoy your
really...
programme,
All
Nick.
right, thanks, Nadia. Cheers, my
Look after
dear.
yourself.
Ta-da. And if you're obsessed with Trump like I am, then that's pretty much all they talk about. There's Bill Maher, who's always excellent. There's Seth Meyers, he's really good. Jimmy Fallon was excellent. It's kind of more soft approach. They took him off. He used to be on every day, on I think it was E. He was on E every day. Groovy. That's not what I mean. I mean, he was on the E channel, I think. And then they took him off. I used to watch that every day. And then they took him off. But they fortunately have Seth Meyers still on. He's very good. And John Oliver, he's a Brit who had to go to America to make it. He's very good too. So if you want topical comedy, I think it's all American now. Let's have Greenford. Tapping it. Nothing happening. There it is. Greenford. Hello, Jane.
Hello, Nick. Again.
Jane.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about those old phone boxes, because I remember years ago, probably in about the early 70s, I think, and I went round, we used to have one around the corner from our house. We had a house phone, but I didn't want anyone to listen, so...
Oh, yeah.
I had a lot of sisters and parents and all that, and I went round there and I had to wait while a woman cleaned the phone box.
What?
So the council must have employed people, maybe one of your listeners would have been one, but I had to wait. She cleaned the handset, the old phone, and then she ended up cleaning all the little windows in the red phone box.
Now, did she use the same cloth for the windows as the phone?
Oh, God knows, I can't remember that. Well, I think she had a couple of cloths. I don't remember having a bucket of water, though.
She was just smearing it. Oh.
Spitting on it, who knows, I don't know. But I do remember having to wait outside, yeah, until she'd finished. I mean, she tidied up. Do you remember the old phone books as well? They used to have hanging the directories.
Yeah.
And she tidied them up where people would rip a page out here and there.
Well, the phone number that you were looking for was always on the page that was missing. Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't it just, yeah. But yeah, I remember that quite clearly. The other thing I was going to say was Trump getting those burgers or McDonald's, what you said, he'd sat and, teaching them. If he doesn't go to McDonald's himself, what's to stop someone putting a bit of arsenic or something under the gherkin slice, like on the way to delivering it to his room?
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't queue up at the McDonald's for himself. No, that's a good point.
No.
Huh.
I can't imagine queuing in a McDonald's. Can you?
I can't, no. Well, that's a flaw in his little scheme. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for pointing that out to Jane. He's going to be very upset. Apparently, that's why he eats at McDonald's all the time. Is because the person who makes the food at McDonald's doesn't know who's going to get it. So if you're in a restaurant, then the waiter knows that it's coming for you, and so does the chef. If Donald Trump goes to a restaurant, then the word will go in the back, it's a VIP. They do this in restaurants. That's why do you go to restaurants ever?
No.
No, me neither. About twice a year when I save up enough points at Tesco's to get a free pizza. But I used to. And I used to, read restaurant reviewers like A.A. Gill. Oh, he was. Nobody's stepped into the gap that he left when he died. A.A. Gill. I mean, there just isn't anybody. I still enjoy Jeremy Clarkson, but A.A. Gill, he's left this gigantic gap in British journalism, and no one has filled it. So if you are a superb writer, then get on the phone, because we are in desperate want of one. But, he would write about restaurants and he would just effuse about a place, and you'd go and you think, wow, I don't know what he's talking about, this is rubbish. That's because when he goes, or when other recognisable food critics go, they get VIP treatment. The word goes into the kitchen, they put an actual note on their plate, this is for the VIP, so don't give them any rubbish. But people like me and you, we don't get that. Gil says, if you go to the bank and all the staff are behind the counter, and they are now... Wait, you go to the bank and all the staff that were behind the counter are now showing you how to self-serve on machines. We're going backwards. That's right. You used to go up to the counter to deposit your cheque. Now they show you over to the wall to stick your cheque up a robot.
Correct.
That's not progress. Joe says, I remember phone boxes always minging. I think Joe comes from north of the border. Always mangin'. And there were telephone books to look numbers up. That's right. That's when we had local codes. We used to dial the time as well. Yeah. Can you still dial the time? Because nobody needs to do that now. You pick up a mobile phone to dial the time and the blooming phone tells you what the time is. There's not Nessa. She says, also arranged to talk to friends at a given time, and the phone box was always busy. You had to bang on the glass to hurry people up, saying, I have an important call to make. Stephen says, my mobile phone is plugged in on charge that much of the time. It may as well be a landline. Turn your phones off, people. Just turn them off. It is like a drug. It is like taking heroin or cocaine or something like that. It does give you a positive reinforcement feedback loop. When your phone goes, then you get a little squirt in your brain. And that's why people are obsessed with them all the time. They leave them on, they take them out and they put them on the table while they're conversing with you. And every time the phone goes, then they're staring down at the phone because it lights up as well. And in their brain it's going, ooh, that again. And then the phone goes, and then they're not paying attention to you anymore and they're staring down at it. It drives me mad. There it is again. Oh, somebody likes me. They like me. They really like me. Turn it off. Leave it in your pocket. Colin says, I remember walking to the phone box with my dad. The smell when you opened the door, with my dad lining up the 2 peas on the metal shelf. Still remember that smell. Yeah, it was probably 2 peas.
Disgusting.
That's exactly what that was. Concentrated peas. That smell. It could peel the colour off plastic. It was awful. But the odoriferousness of the cubicle itself was as nothing compared to the whiff that came from the telephone handset, the mouthpiece. People spitting and spitting and spitting. It was like, I would imagine what a Tyrannosaurus breath would smell like. Excruciating, painful. And you would hold it far, you couldn't put the thing next to your ear because you didn't want the ick to wipe off on the side of your face. And you were also trying to get the mouthpiece as far away from your nose as possible. Are you kids? You've got no idea. So stop whining. Patrick says, don't get me started on phones. If she spoke face to face, my mum waterboarded her hapless victims with spit. Well, that's not very nice. He says, for your own safety, Dad and I wore life jackets if we needed the phone after she spent more than half an hour gassing to her friend next door. Quacking on and on and on. Just go next door, Mum. We used to have party lines. Does anybody remember party lines?
No.
There was nothing party-like about it. This is how things have moved on. Blimey, it's almost like a different age, ain't it? Telephones were so bloomin' expensive that unless you were, rich, you couldn't afford to have your own telephone line. Goodness me, no. You had to share one with the people across the road. Which meant that if they were on the phone, you couldn't be. You'd pick the phone up and you'd be immediately listening to their conversation. Incredible to think that now. Everybody over the age of 2 years old has their own phone now. How do they cost so much, though, by the way? I mean, that does seem like somebody's making a lot... Well, we know that somebody's making a lot of money. What they're doing with it, nobody really has any idea. They're taking it over to... they're putting it on a computer screen in an empty shop on a moon that orbits Venus for tax reasons. And it's just piling up and piling up and piling up. How can something so small cost so much? My car doesn't cost as much as replacing my phone would cost. That's ridiculous. Somebody should look into that. How much does an actual mobile phone actually cost to make? I bet it won't be pence, but it won't be very many pounds, I bet. And they sell them for hundreds, 600, 700, 800 pounds. Ridiculous. But we're addicted to it. That's what they've done. They've made us addicted to all those pings and pongs. I'm on about 4 or 5 pings a day now, man, but I can handle it. Brendan says, my landline is incoming calls only and is only required to receive my French wife's family calls. Are we? Oh, here we are back with the we again. So all countries in Europe have free incoming and outgoing landline calls within Europe, except the UK. Well, thank goodness we're getting our country back, eh? He says, in the UK, a second mortgage is required to make a call to Europe. As soon as all of Brittany can get broadband and FaceTime, my landline will be gone. I must admit to having some form of satisfaction or reassurance at still having a landline. I've no idea why. Well, I just find it irritating, landlines. I mean, I'm not the kind of person that speaks much, actually, when I'm off the air. I won't say practically nothing at all to anybody, so I'm not one that uses the phone a lot. But I just find it a little bit irritating, because they don't look very nice, so I sort of hide them away, and every time it goes, there's an ecstasy of fumbling, trying to extricate it from behind books and, all sorts of things. Hi, Mum. CT says, that telephone music you mentioned was Dial-A-Disc on number 160. I remember that in my youth. Dial-A-Disc. That's right. What did you have to used to do? You dialed it up, and they actually played the top 10 to you. Isn't that right? So it was something ridiculous like that. And of course, it would cost you more to listen to it than it would cost to actually go out and buy the music itself. It would cost more than to take a cab down to the record shop and buy the top 10 and then take a cab back again. Dial-a-disc. Chris says, Pagliacci. Oh, right, this is back to the Sandman lyrics. Mr. Sandman. Pagliacci is a sad clown from the opera of the same name. Opera. Oh, opera.
Boring.
Oh, well, you lost me at opera. It all works out okay in the end now. What does that mean? You mean an opera ended happily? I very much doubt it. This says, did you manage to figure out how Trump's hair works after Ivanka's description? I'm not so sure. I think it might be set up as a marquee. It's worth, if you missed that earlier on, because it has been an object of wonderment, Donald Trump's hair. You stare at it and you stare at it and you stare at it and you cannot figure out where it comes from and where it goes to and what is exactly happening there. And Ivanka Trump, you know, Ivanka Trump is Donald Trump's daughter, the woman that Donald Trump, her father, described as hot. Yeah, that Ivanka. She's probably the one that insisted on putting a lock on Donald Trump's door. Ivanka Trump's made fun of his hair, apparently, according to this new book. This is, I'll repeat myself, because, you know, people that were listening then probably aren't listening now. So here's what happens with Donald Trump's hair. And if you are similarly challenged, then this is what you do. It'll probably take you about 6-7 hours to construct this edifice before you leave the house. I think irons are involved, and you know, about 6 different types of glue. First, you get surgery to reduce the size of your scalp. Now, that's going to be the hard part. After that, it becomes relatively easy, if a little time-consuming. So he had a massive amount of a bald scalp, and he just got that cut off. It's not that he's, you know, obsessed about his looks or anything. So that the island of hairlessness gets smaller. So he had it removed and made into, I don't know, a jacket. I've got no idea. A fetching pair of gloves for his giant hands. And then you add Just for Men blonde dye, but you don't keep it in long enough. You don't read the pack, and you get very, very irritated and grumpy. And so you wash it out too soon, so that it doesn't go blonde. It goes a kind of an orangey, that orangey shade that he's got. And then you take a furry circle of hair around the sides and the front, and then you draw all of the ends up to meet in the center on the top. And then you sweep them back and you secure it by stiffening spray. Now, that's the explanation, but even that doesn't quite explain in sufficient detail what it is that goes on when they're swept up to the top. Because I'm sure that there are right angles involved. And it does describe a corner. I think there's a 180-degree corner. It goes forwards and then is folded back and then meets in a sort of a duck's bottom at the rear. It must take ages. Must be teams of people that have to get together to construct his hair don't on a daily basis. What must it look like when he gets up in the morning? What must it look like when he gets out of the shower? Oh, this book, I swear, this is like, maybe there is a God after all. He's having the worst week ever. How's the year going for you so far, Donnie?
Fabulous.
I might actually buy a book. Can you believe that?
No.
No, I'm stunned. I might buy a book and read it as well. Well, this has been fun. Thanks very much for, you know, whatever it is that you did. Either listened or contributed or whatever. And I will regroup. I'll have to lie down for about 6-7 hours now, and in a darkened room. Not to sleep, just to sort of, you know, recover. And I will be back at 10 p.m. and we'll go through all of this again. And there's, I might talk about Nigel Farage tonight because, the stuff that came out from him. He asked LBC listeners for questions for Michel Barnier, who's going to go and see the EU man, and some of the responses he got. Priceless. So much stuff. It's like a newscast. It's like birthday all over again.